sometime tomorrow. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. Let me introduce you to my co-hosts. As I mentioned, my name's Craig Klein. I'm the CEO and founder of Sales Nexus, and my background's in sales. I've been hiring and firing and training salespeople and developing lead generation and business development campaigns for over 18 years. And I'm joined by Michael Halper, the CEO of Launchpad Solutions. Welcome, Michael.
Hi, Craig. Hello, everybody.
Michael's in the business of setting appointments for his customers, and he's also the author of The Cold Calling Equation. And he's got 20 years as a frontline sales, marketing, customer service leader. And also, we're joined by Forrest Cassidy, the CEO of LeadFerret.com. Welcome, Forrest.
Thanks, Craig. Thanks for having me.
And we'll be talking a little more about LeadFerret here later in the presentation. But if you haven't checked it out yet, be sure and check out and sign up for your free account on LeadFerret.com. You'll find millions and millions of B2B contacts for you to access there as leads and prospects. But like I said, we're going to talk about that a little bit later. So also want to make sure everybody's aware, today's webinar is part of an ongoing series that we've kicked off here at the beginning of the year. We're on our third installment, but you can see the last couple of weeks we covered the Magic 5 of content-based email marketing that drives sales. And then last week, Michael presented building a successful marketing and sales process by identifying your customer's pain. As we talked about, today's presentation will be about qualifying sales leads and focusing on sales growth that's profitable. And then next week, I'll be joined by Jim Wilkinson of the Strategic CFO, and we're going to talk about managing a sales process and managing your sales pipeline and performing accurate sales forecasting. And then finally, on the 13th of February, we'll tackle creating a 360-degree view of the customer relationship to grow your business. So hopefully you can join us for all of those. Be sure and register for them, even if you're not sure you're going to be able to attend. If you register, you will get an email with a link to the slides and the recording, so you'll be able to watch it at your convenience. So with that, I'll toss it over to Michael.
Thanks, Craig. Just to start out with a quick recap of last week and actually the week before, because I know some of you either may have missed those sessions or some time has passed since then. So the first week we started out, actually just to take a step back, the whole kind of theme going through these training modules is a concept of using content marketing to generate more leads. And so we start with sort of a three-step approach. The first step was utilizing identifying the pain that you resolve for your prospects and creating 5 content pieces, one for each pain point, and then sending those out possibly through email, through maybe an email marketing or an email automation solution, something similar to Sales Nexus, preferably a system that you can use that can track the opens and clicks. And that's what we discussed last week. We discussed what pain was and hopefully helped you to be able to figure out what pain you resolve. Now we're going to move on to the step 2, which is qualifying. And in this step in the model, we have the opens and clicks for those emails. And now what we want to do is we want to call those prospects and ask them 5 qualifying questions. And of course we're calling these prospects ultimately to hopefully generate a lead, schedule a meeting, maybe set an appointment. But we're going to ask some questions. We might just end up gathering some information. We might end up qualifying or not qualifying the prospect. But that's what we're going to talk about here today, is that second step in the process. And so we're going to talk about what is qualifying, why it's important, what a qualified prospect looks like. We'll give you a 2-step qualifying process to use, and we'll give you some examples of qualifying questions. and some different types of qualifying questions. What you can gain by attending this module is you'll hopefully be able to better qualify prospects. You'll be able to identify which prospects to spend your valuable time with. You'll decrease the time that might be wasted or potential time that could be wasted, and you'll be able to build a better, more healthy pipeline, and you'll have more control over sales cycles and deals. So let's just jump right in. What is qualifying? I know that most of you all know what qualifying is, but just to level set, start at the foundation. Qualifying is basically assessing the prospect in two key areas. One, how well does the prospect fit with what you have to offer? Fit from a need standpoint, and then fit from how you're able to help that prospect. But then we can't just stop there, because the prospect could desperately need what we have to offer, but the second thing we need to look at is how likely are they to purchase from us. If they desperately need what we have to offer, but they don't have any money or funding, then they're not really a qualified prospect, and we'll dig into that much deeper, probably too deep than you're going to want to go. Qualifying is basically performed in two ways. The first way is you may do some qualifying before you even do any outbound or any prospecting, meaning you're doing it through research. We'll talk about that. But the majority of your prospecting will be when you're sitting in front of a prospect or you're on the phone, and that's what probably 90% of this training module will be on, what to do then. So to be honest with you, this is probably when people are struggling to either manage deals, manage their pipeline, create leads. One of the key areas that can help in all those areas is by being better able to qualify. It's critical to sales effectiveness, and here are some key reasons why. First, time is limited and valuable. You really only have, even if you work 60 hours a week, you only have about 40 hours a week of business hours if you're doing B2B sales, where you can really have time where you can either prospect or meet with clients. There's nothing you can do to add more time to the week. So time is limited, and it's your most valuable resource, and it's something you cannot replace if you waste it. Additionally, the control you have is somewhat limited. You cannot control the prospects that you sell to or that you deal with, meaning you can't make them return your call. You can't make them agree to purchase from you. You can't force them to move faster than they are wanting. Well, you could probably push deals along a little faster, but at the end of the day, you can't control the prospects that you talk to. But what you can do is you can control which prospects you talk to, meaning if you build a healthier pipeline of prospects that are better quality because they've been better qualified, you will then be able to control those interactions and those deals better and manage your pipeline better. Knowledge is power. Okay, the more knowledge you have over the prospect, over your products, this applies anywhere in life. The more knowledge you have, the more more power you have. And one way to get more knowledge of your prospects is by qualifying. When you're qualifying, you're going to be asking some really good questions. That's going to extract some extremely powerful information. You'll likely find out where pain lies with your prospects. In addition, lastly, relationships are key. It's key to have strong relationships with prospects, because the better relationships you have, the more information they'll share, the more responsive they'll be during the sales cycle. So that's key. And when you're qualifying, this will help you to build more positive, stronger relationships, because you're going to be asking good questions, and that's going to be building a better impression. It's going to help to decrease the prospect's guard, and it's going to help to build rapport. So I mentioned that some of the qualifying you do before you even are talking to prospects, and that's where you're identifying, what type of qualities of the prospects fit well from an ideal prospect standpoint, and you may do this. You may identify these on your own. These may be handed down to you from sales management, but you'll have a territory in terms of geography. There might be a size of business that you need to focus on or that you fit well with, revenue type, revenue ranges, industry, the department that you should sell to, the title of individual that you sell to. So you have these demographic details. Now, if you're going to do a program like we're talking about here where you're sending out maybe emails to a list of potential prospects, you're going to want to qualify that list to make sure you're sending it to a list of prospects that fit these preliminary details. And to a great place that you can go to build the list is, we were mentioning earlier, is leadferret.com is a place where you can go to, and I'm actually going to jump over to the live website to show you real quick. Now, when you're talking to a prospect, you want to identify if they are a certain range or industry, and you're about to call a prospect. You could actually go to LeadFerret, and I've just put a company in here, Exxon. Let's say we're going to call someone at Exxon, or we're looking for a contact to call. I can actually search right here, and let's see. I'm out. I've been on this page for a while. Just do a rush. Building your list, you can you can come here, look up one company, one and search. And I'm being told that my audio is breaking up. Let me see here.
Michael, this is Forrest. Also, you need to be actually logged in. What happened was, why you got that error is you had one page sitting for a while, and so you thought you were logged in and you tried to run the search, but it had logged you out because your session had expired. So I quickly checked with the technician here. There's nothing wrong with the site. It's just you'd have been logged out because the page was sitting a while.
Yeah, Michael, it sounds like you're back now. We were kind of losing your audio there for a minute, but sounds fine now.
Okay. Because it sounds like that was using up some bandwidth. So, Craig, let me know if I break up again. But anyways, LeadFerret is a place where you can begin your qualifying by basically entering your demographic details of what you're looking for your ideal prospect, and then you can get a list of your target prospects. So then you've done your first step in qualifying right there. So let's just move on to really the real meat here of qualifying and how to make sure that you're dealing with ultimately the best quality prospects. So what does a qualified prospect look like versus an unqualified? If you look on the left of the screen, you see a qualified prospect there in 4 categories. These are the 4 categories that you need to check off in order to make sure that you're dealing with a qualified prospect. And there needs to be a medium to strong level of strength in these areas. So the 4 areas are: does the prospect need to purchase what you have? Need being the key word there. Not do they want to purchase, but do they need to purchase what you have to offer? Does the prospect have the authority to purchase? Authority means, are they the decision maker? Do they have the ability to say yes? Are they the person that actually signs the agreement? So we'll talk about that in a little bit more detail. Do they have the ability to purchase? Ability meaning the ability from a funding or money standpoint, or the pure ability to move forward. And then the intent to purchase. So intent means, do they genuinely intend to make a purchase? For example, there's lots of people that might go to the car dealership on a Sunday afternoon to take a joyride. That person does not have a genuine intent to purchase, versus someone else who their cart breaking down, and they know I need to make a purchase this weekend or at least some point in the next month. So we need, the unfortunate thing is that we need medium to strong in all of those categories. If one of those areas is weak, it's really not a qualified prospect. And if you look over on the left side of the right side of the screen, you see here these are unqualified prospects, or an unqualified prospect can have just only one of these. And to help demonstrate that, I'm going to go through one at a time. There's basically 4 types of really common unqualified prospects that you'll run into and that you may recognize when I go through these. The first one is they're good in all areas, but they're weak in the area of the need to purchase. So it's sort of the no need to purchase prospect. So they have the authority to purchase. They're the decision maker. They have the ability to purchase. They have budget. It's been approved. The funds are ready. They have the intent to purchase. They definitely want to do something and plan to do something. But, you know, and they like what you offer. They've attended some meetings that you've had, and you have some great features in your software, and it looks really cool. But at the end of the day, they do not really need to purchase what you have to offer. An example of this might be, let's say you sell some type of software, and like I said, it looks great, it demos great, they love it, you've got good meetings going. But let's say that they're currently using a system that it works okay. It works okay to kind of good. It definitely could be improved. Since things are okay, you're dealing with more of a want than a need. And because there's more of a want than a need, you've done a great job in getting meetings going, but when it's time for the prospect to say yes and to agree to spend money, the deal could get killed due to the lack of justification to spend those funds and to move forward. So there you can see, you know, everything looks pretty good. And if you ignore that the difference between the want and the need, you may have this prospect in your pipeline, and you may be forecasting it to your sales management and thinking that it's a home run and it's coming in, but these are the types of prospects that start ignoring your calls at the end of the sales cycle, and you start wondering what's going on. If you would have qualified the prospect, you might have spent less time with them and might not have forecasted that deal. Moving on to the next, the no authority to purchase prospect. So this prospect is good in all areas. They don't have the authority to purchase. A great example of this is you might have got into an account and you've been selling to, let's say, a department manager, and the meetings are going great again. Everything's great. And this manager does have some authority. They have a team of people that report into them. This manager definitely, you know, makes a lot of decisions, but they are not the person who approves this purchase, and they are not the person that has the approval to say yes. So you've been spending a couple months selling to this person. The person that really says yes in this scenario is their manager, and that person has not been involved in your sales cycle the entire time. Again, here's a scenario where you think things are great, you forecasted the deal, you're working with the department manager, and you feel good, but it's not a qualified prospect because the person you're dealing with does not have the authority to purchase. So that's a no authority to purchase type of unqualified prospect. The no ability to purchase prospect, a prospect that's weak in the area of ability to purchase, so they don't have funding available. They don't have the funding maybe allocated to the particular project that you're trying to get sold, and so that again is an unqualified prospect. I want to stop here and actually point out these aren't horrible prospects, right? If you've got a lead going and you identify that there's no funding available, that doesn't say it's something you should walk away from. It's just you need to identify that because it might be a deal for next year where you're able to get the deal going for real and qualify the prospect when the budgets open up. So this can help you to determine how to prioritize it in your pipeline. And I actually want to go back up to make that same comment on the authority to purchase. If the prospect doesn't have the authority to purchase, it's not a horrible situation. But what you want to do in that case is you want to identify that, so then you can then turn that person that you're selling to into more of a coach than a decision maker, and then you want to identify who the decision maker is and then get them into the dialogue and the discussions as soon as possible. Once that happens, it becomes a qualified opportunity or prospect. And to move on to the last type of unqualified prospect, the no intent to purchase prospect. So here's an example, and you could possibly not really know what one of these looks like. And I'll give you an example. These are the prospects where everything looks good, but they are not really serious about purchasing, or they might not really be serious about purchasing from you. These can come across your path when someone reaches out to you to ask for pricing or ask for a quote. And you get a little excited, you put together a proposal, you send it over, but the reality is that prospect they're coming to you at the 11th hour. They've been working on this evaluation for a year, and they've already been talking to another company, and they're coming to you to get a price at the end, so that they okay, I'm being told that the audio isn't great, so we're going to take a.
I'll take over for a minute.
Okay. Okay. We're going to take a quick break because I'm told that the audio isn't great, and we're going to switch computers. Please bear with us one minute.
Okay, Michael, I'm back here at my desk. Sorry about that, everybody. Michael's going to try and call in and see if that improves the audio for him. Hopefully you can hear me okay. And while we're doing that, one of the things that Michael and I were talking about before we got started here today, what I love about the concept of qualifying so much is that most salespeople spend most of their time looking for people to talk to, right? In most sales organizations, whether it's cold calling or knocking on doors or going to trade shows, you spend a lot of money, a lot of time trying to get engaged with a potential prospect. And then, because you've invested that time and resource in establishing that initial relationship, you have this tendency, as soon as anybody demonstrates even a little bit of interest, to sort of fall in love with them because you've invested so much effort in getting to that point. And so you end up wanting to spend a lot of resource going forward with somebody that's still not really qualified for all the reasons that Michael's just been touching on, that's really not going to end up purchasing because they don't either have a strong enough need or they don't have the authority to purchase and so on. And we all know how we can rationalize things, and especially when it comes to authority to purchase. That's a big one for me. You find that it's easy to tell yourself, well, this guy doesn't really have the authority to purchase, but he can introduce me to the person who does have that authority. And then you spend a lot of time doing presentations and so on and so forth, and that introduction never takes place. You really have to learn to focus on getting that introduction right up front, or just walk away sometimes.
Hey, Craig, can you?
You're back?
Craig, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me? I'm on. Okay. I'll take it over from here. You were cutting out a little bit, so I just decided to dial in. So I'm ready to get going again.
Okay, I'm going to mute myself just so that we can keep it clean.
Okay. I apologize about that for everybody. Definitely want you to hear all of this, so let's just back up a little bit. Here's where we left off. We were talking about no intent to purchase prospects. So, and I was mentioning that these prospects, they might call you at the 11th hour, and
one of the reasons why they'll do that is they may reach out to you to get their only intent is to get a price from you. They've already decided that I'm going to purchase from the company that I've been working with for 11 months. We've tested their product, and now we're going to contact 2 other companies, and we're going to make them think that we might buy from them, and they're going to give us quotes, and that's going to allow us to negotiate better with the company we've already decided to purchase from. And that can happen to you. It happens all the time. And if you don't know to recognize that, then what you end up doing is you end up spending a bunch of time putting together a proposal. You might put a deal in your forecast and in your pipeline, and but that's not a qualified prospect. And there are some key questions for all of these types of scenarios that I've been telling you, to where you can identify them. And you might not walk away from all these deals, but you're going to be able to make decisions better, and you're going to be able to prioritize your pipeline better. And at the end of the day, what all this means is you're going to avoid wasting time, and that time that you would have originally wasted, you can now focus on using to find new prospects. And I'm sure you can see how all that adds up to better sales performance. So how do we do that? I'm just going to take a drink real quick. All right, we give you a 2-step qualifying process to help you to identify those 4 types of people that I just told you, okay? And the first step is soft qualifying. We have soft qualifying, we have hard qualifying. The reason why we've divided the 2 is that there are some hard questions that you're going to ask these prospects. Questions like, you know, is this budget approved? Is funding available for this? You know what I mean? That's a hard question, and you don't want to ask that questions like that the very first time you talk to a prospect. So in our first contact, we're going to focus on soft qualifying, and this is a softer approach that really focuses on just really identifying, does it make sense to meet in person or meet again over the phone, or does it really make sense for us to keep talking? So it's just real simple. And then once we check that box and we move on to the next step of our process, which would be maybe a first meeting, we will then identify, we're then going to work to identify if it's a real prospect and if the lead is real, and we will do that by hard qualifying. We do it as early as the first meeting, but we're just not going to do that in the first contact that we make with the prospect. So let me explain what that looks like. Soft qualifying basically focuses on 3 key areas. There's a typo in the slide. Focuses on 3 key areas. The first area is the current state. So what is the prospect doing in the particular area where your products are fit or they revolve around, right? If you sell some type of system, if you help with some type of process, what is the prospect currently doing in your area, right, today? The answer there alone may tell you whether or not you should keep talking. Maybe they're doing nothing, and that is like a ding, 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 ding. That alone, we should keep talking, or whatnot. The next thing you want to check is the level of satisfaction. Well, how are things going? Okay, we know that you're using system Tiger Voice. Well, you know, we could assume that they're unhappy, but we want to hear from the prospect, how is it going? Are things good, great, okay, could be better? That's going to tell you that's going to help you to soft qualify. And we want to identify real quick organizational details. We don't necessarily need to know if it's the key decision maker that we're talking to, but we at least want to know, is it somebody in at least the general area before we, you know, spend any more time talking. So, I'm going to check the time, and we're doing okay on time, so I'll go into a little bit of detail in those 3 areas. Current state, the real goal is, as I mentioned, to find out what the prospect is doing in the areas where your product impacts. And so some questions that you will ask here will depend on what you're selling, and will be different for every person. But here are some examples. Let's say we sell some sort of supply chain or inventory management software. Here, a question you would ask, well, what are you currently using to manage inventory? And then if you get an answer back, when did you all implement that system? That's a pretty big question. When did you implement that system? If they implemented this, whatever they're using today, last month, that's like selling a car and saying, how old is your car? And they say, well, I bought it last week. That's not a qualified prospect, right? So you might want to identify when did they make the move that they're currently on. And then, a question might be, are you locked into a contract with your current provider? That may or may not apply to you. You're going to ask 2 or 3 questions, and you're going to basically want to assess the information you get back. So I mentioned to you that you want to measure prospects in different areas from medium to strong. And so if the prospect would be strong, possibly if they're not doing anything in the area where you have something to offer. Medium would be contract expiring soon. Weak would be they just bought something or they're locked into an agreement. You're going to get these slides, by the way, so you don't need to write all this down. There's going to be a lot of verbiage on the next few slides, a lot of questions. So I'll give you plenty of access to where this information is, so don't worry about writing all this down. The next thing is level of satisfaction. So we want to identify, are things good, okay, great, could be better. Some questions are, how do you feel about the level of service that you're getting from your current provider? You can maybe throw on a scale from 1 to 10 after that, to help you to get more information. How do you feel about your ability to manage inventory levels with your current system? Is there any functionality that you need that your current system isn't providing? And then we can assess from a level of satisfaction. We want basically the prospects who give us information back that sounds like things could be better. That's where we kind of get the ding, 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 which could be a qualified prospect. And organizational details, as I mentioned, you just really want to find out because your determination here is do I have a green light to keep talking where it makes sense for me to spend my valuable time talking to this person. So you want to know at least if they're in the general area of what you're trying to talk about, because you might have reached someone and the title is different from what you thought it was. And so here's an example of some questions. Are you involved in the management of the supply chain? Is this an area that falls under your responsibility? Is this an area that impacts you at all? Based on the answers there, you're going to identify whether or not they are somebody that you should at least have a brief conversation with. And you go through those 3 steps, and that's going to tell you whether or not you should try to schedule a meeting, schedule an appointment, or you'll identify if there's any glaring reasons that you should be talking to someone else. That's soft qualifying. That takes place in a 2 to 5 minute phone conversation. So when we talk about the lead generation campaign, you're probably your 5 qualifying questions that you follow up your paying emails with should maybe be soft qualifying questions, because you're likely trying to drive towards an appointment. Now, when you get on when you schedule that meeting, and then you're sitting face to face, or you have 30 minutes of a phone meeting on the calendar, then you can dig into hard qualifying. And here are 4 key areas that you want to focus on for that. Need to purchase. You want to separate the wants from needs in terms of what category your prospect's in. The ability to purchase. You want to determine how readily funds are available. Authority to purchase. So this is where you're going to dig a little deeper and find out, is this the real person, the real key person that I'm talking to, and ultimately a true intent to purchase. So let's go through each of those one at a time, and probably need to pick up the pace a little bit. Need to purchase. Our goal is to really separate the needs from the wants. So here are some examples of questions that you could ask to help you figure that out. Let's say somebody's talking to you and they're expressing interest in what you sell. Well, let me ask you, what happens if you don't purchase from us or purchase anything in this area? What does that look like? And if you ask that type of question, listen to the answer, because if it's not that bad of an impact, if the prospect says, well, we could still just keep using our system today and whatever, they explain something to you and there's not that great of an impact, it could be that you're dealing with more of a want than need. Not horrible. You still might close the deal, but it's not as qualified as you want it to be. Is there a date when the purchase needs to be made by? That's a key question. If they say, well, we have to do something by the end of the year because that's when our contract expires, that's pretty, that's a need, versus them saying, well, we'd like to do it sometime this year, but it doesn't really matter. That's not as qualified. So there's some questions there. Authority to purchase. What you don't want to do is you don't want to ask a prospect, are you the decision maker? Okay? But I'm going to give you a real trick here, a way to get that answer with being a little bit more diplomatic. You can simply ask, what is the decision-making process? And have them explain it to you. Okay, well, what does it take to reach the decision to purchase from a pure decision standpoint? Well, what does it look like? What does that look like from a paperwork standpoint? Okay, and then map it out step by step. If there's a committee, then this person signs off, and then the ultimate person that signs off is this person. Well, maybe that person that ultimately signs the contract, maybe the CFO, maybe it's the executive in the corner office, that is the person that's the true decision maker and someone we need to bring in. So what is the decision-making process is a very good question for you to ask to determine the authority to purchase with the person that you're talking to. Ability to purchase, we're trying to identify funding. So here I'll give you another, some other good questions that sometimes people are uncomfortable asking. The real question here is do you have any money, right, or any funding? And while you don't want to come out and ask that, here are some really diplomatic ways to ask that. Is there a budget that's been approved for this project? That's a good way to kind of find out if there's money available. And then another one is, let me see if it's on here. Yes, it's the next one. So you could ask, instead of saying, well, what are you looking to pay or how much money do you have to spend, a way that you can rephrase that is to say, what is the budget range that this project needs to stay within? And you'd be surprised a lot of times you get a range back from the prospect when you're very direct and you ask that. Intent to purchase. So these are going to be some, again, that you might feel uncomfortable asking, but just be very direct. But you may want to ask, what other options are you considering? So someone's reaching out to you, you give them a demo, or before your demonstration, you say, well, what other options are you looking at for this? They might say, well, we're looking at X, Y, and X and Y, right? Well, how far along are you in talking with them? They might lie to you. I mean, you always stand that. But if you don't ask these questions, you're not moving forward in the right direction for sure. But they might say, well, we've been talking to X for about 6 months. Oh, okay. Well, how do you feel about their solution? What do you like about their solution? What don't you like? And so here, like I said, you'll get access to these questions, but these are great questions for you to determine, is this prospect really serious about buying from me, or are they just trying to get a price? So those are some hard qualifying questions. Now let's get to you, and I'm going to check the time. We're doing okay. Now let's get to you. We want you to come up with 5 qualifying questions for yourself, and there's 2 steps to that. One is you want to identify what your ideal prospect looks like. So you want to figure out, where do I sell my products best to the prospects that don't have a system today, or maybe the prospects that have an old system or this type of technology? You want to find out what that environment looks like, and then you can develop questions to basically figure out whether or not you're talking to people that have that particular environment. I'm going to jump into SalesScripter to show you kind of visually what this looks like. For those of you that haven't attended any of these modules yet, SalesScripter is a web-based software system that is basically a discovery tool that you can go through, and you can use it it basically asks you a bunch of questions, and it will extract key details about your products, your company, and your prospects. And it plugs all of these pieces of information into a library of templates and tools. And when we met last week, we talked about value. The first step in SalesScripter identifies the products that you sell and the value and benefits that those offer. And then those come over to help you to identify the pain points that you have based on the value that you offer. And now I think that's where we left off last time, and to pick up where that is the next step of ideal prospect. And you heard me just mention you want to identify what the environment looks like for your ideal prospect. So the ideal prospect tab in SalesScriptor, the first half is demographic details. So these are sort of what your territory is and where you're focused. By the way, you can plug these details into LeadParrot. If you're signed in like I wasn't, you can get a quick list of prospects that fit this. You can get 500, 1,000, 2,000 contacts right away with email addresses. But the second half of the ideal prospect tab will help you identify the environmental characteristics. So companies that don't have technical resources, that are currently using outdated systems, those are who we want to go after. And once you fill that out, then you come to qualifying. And here's where you're going to be able to develop the qualifying questions for your calls that you make after the emails that you send. So basically we bring over the environmental details, and then you're able to script out your qualifying questions for your ideal prospect. And let me show you where those go, because you're going to have a nice clean output of all your qualifying questions, and not only your soft ones. Basically what I just showed you, technical questions, business questions, and personal questions, those are what you're going to fill in. But this tool also provides you all of those hard qualifying questions that I moved through really quickly that you likely did not, we didn't even talk about all of them. They're all right here. So if you go sign up for SalesScriptor, which, by the way, it's currently in beta and offered at no price, you can get all the questions that I went through really quickly. And let me just show you, for example, what happens if you do not do anything. We talked about that one. So it's all right here. Let me show you another place where this shows up, is in the sales scripts. So you send out your pain emails. You send those through a system like Sales Nexus. Then you're going to get notified when someone clicks on your email to read your pain article. Then you click on the contact to give them a call, and then you pull up your indirect call script. Okay? These scripts are designed to where the qualifying questions are at the core. So you can see here soft qualifying questions. So here's your script: introduction to Gatekeeper, introduction to your contact, value statement to open your call with, and then you have your qualifying questions. So we talked about 5 pain points, 5 qualifying questions. Here you have 9. So pick 5. I would tell you that you probably, on a cold call, you probably want to ask between 3 to 5 questions. Anything beyond that, you're going to start to kind of run out of time. And then if you have more questions or the discussion's going pretty good, you want to check in with the prospect and maybe say, before I go any further, I called you out of the blue. Do you want to keep talking about this right now? Or you might want to say, I've called you out of the blue. Let's dig into this into detail. Can I put 30 minutes on your calendar next Tuesday? So, but, ask 3 to 5 of these. And then here's some pain points, which we talked about last week. And the script goes on. That's a whole other conversation, which, by the way, we will have a SalesScriptor webinar coming up towards the end of this 5-series training. We'll add on a SalesScriptor webinar, and you'll be notified of that. We'll go through this tool in detail. Let me try to see if there's anything else. That should be it that I want to show you in SalesScriptor. And I try to kind of bring that all back. We went through a deep dive into qualifying to bring that back to our content marketing strategy to help you to generate leads. So there you see the pain emails. There you see the 5 qualifying questions. When you make that call, there's a very good chance you're going to schedule an appointment. If you go through some of those questions, you identify pain, you qualify the prospect. If you don't, then you follow up with additional emails. If you're using a system like Sales Nexus, you can create a second campaign that has FAQ emails, which are emails that say more information about questions that are commonly asked for your company. Like a question that's asked of my company, we do a lot of appointment setting. Someone might say, well, how many appointments do you typically do per week? Okay, and so I might create an FAQ piece in an email that might say typical results and return on investment for appointment setting services. And so when I ask my qualifying questions, if I don't schedule the appointment, I then create that second campaign, shoot it out, and my prospect's going to get an email on the ROI of appointment setting. And so that is the content marketing campaign program that this webinar series is really structured around. To summarize some points on qualifying, not every prospect is a good prospect. So one of the mistakes that we can make is trying to sell to everybody. And qualifying will help you to sell to the right people. And what that's going to do is that's going to help you to save time, as I mentioned before, save time that would have originally been wasted. It's, identifying real early on that, oh, this person is never going to buy anything from me, and I need to walk away and go spend the time that I would have spent talking to them, spend that time looking for a new prospect. That's a very productive direction to go in if that's not a qualified prospect that would never purchase from you. Good prospects have a need to purchase, the authority to purchase, the ability to purchase through funding, and the interest or genuine intent to purchase. Time's limited, so what you want to do is you want to maximize the time you spend with high-quality prospects, minimize the time you spend with low-quality prospects. The way to shift that balance into where it's optimized. It'll never be optimized. I mean, or totally complete. I mean, you're going to end up talking to some questionable prospects. But to make sure it's optimized, qualifying is the way to do that. And you can use the two-step process that we've provided you as a way to do that. And that is pretty much it that I want to go into. If you found this information to be helpful and you want more help, you can check out my book. There's a whole chapter in my book on qualifying. There's a whole chapter on pain. There's a whole chapter, basically the book is broken down into areas such as dealing with objections, getting around gatekeepers, finding pain, qualifying, building interest. There's a chapter for each, so it can be a good reference manual. It's on Amazon, pretty affordable as well. I should probably raise the price on that. Just kidding. But one-on-one coaching, I offer 4 30-minute sessions for $200. So basically, a lot of my clients, we spread that out across a month and meet for 30 minutes a week to talk about stuff like this. I find that most of my clients, the return on investment is pretty good, pretty strong. I mean, the time they spend with me definitely leads to additional deals, and it's a fraction of a deal for what it takes to pay for our coaching sessions. We have web-based recorded training along these lines. We have live web-based training along with all this material, and we have live workshop training if you're interested. I'd also encourage you to check out SalesScripter. It's available, salesscripter.com. It is available at no cost today while we're in beta, so check it out now. And if you have any information on any of these items, please go to or send an email to info@salesscripter.com. And Craig, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here. Just been muted to try and avoid any additional audio trouble. I think it did get a lot better, so thanks for switching lines there. So just a reminder, join us again, same time next week, February 6th at 4 p.m. Eastern for Manage a Sales Process of Actions that Lead to Sales Growth. This is going to be a great webinar. I'm going to be joined by Jim Wilkinson, the strategic CFO. He coaches CFOs and teaches them how to measure sales and forecast sales. So he has a completely unique perspective on the concept of pipeline management and forecasting sales, from a financial point of view. And he's developed a spreadsheet that is really insightful, easy to use. So we're going to look at that, and we're going to talk about how to automate that process and make it easy for your sales team as well. So for everybody that comes from a sales and marketing background, Jim's going to help you understand how the finance guys look at all the numbers that we put together. So it should be very interesting. You can go to salesnexus.com/resources/webinars to register for this webinar as well as the other ones upcoming. And you'll also be getting an email tomorrow. It'll have the video recording of today's webinar, the slides. It'll have a link to the scripter. It'll have a link to register for next week's webinar and a link to register for your free Lead Ferret account so you can get in there and start accessing business contacts to reach out to. So appreciate everybody joining us, and especially appreciate Forrest joining us and helping sponsor the event. Thanks a lot, Forrest, for being part of this.
Thank you, Greg.
And Michael, thank you especially for the talk today. It was really great. Again, everybody, you can access Michael's webinar on pain, which was last week, that at the same place, salesnexus.com/resources/webinars, and you'll be able to access this one here sometime probably later tonight, and you'll get an email about that tomorrow. So thanks, everybody. Have a great afternoon, and we'll be in touch with you very soon with more information.